relationship with that person. At Cornell, the Greek community service organizations, the best to recruit from is APO Gamma. They just last year gave 100 hours to the library. They just keep coming and coming. They have hundreds of members.
What is it?
APO, Alpha Phi Omega, Gamma. It's Gamma Services. I mean, I'll get, I didn't quite know that I was coming to this right away, so I don't have anything to hand out, but I can give you that information, and I can send it to, maybe to you, or, and give you the specifics of how to get in touch with these folks. Lambda Theta Alpha, La Unidad Latina, these are all service fraternities that come to the library. Pi Delta Psi, and I mentioned the Day of Demeter, that's all Cornell. Do you need to repeat anything? If you go to the Cornell site and just put in their search function, and these things will pop right up to you. And I mentioned IC is Don Austin. So the other thing that we're doing in terms of, and these are opportunities, and one area we're building, we haven't done before at the library, but we're starting to do more and more now, is relationships with for-profit organizations, not just agencies and educational institutions. GiveGab's one of them. They're a great partner. I post and recruit through them frequently, but not only that, but they send volunteers. So I feel like I have a relationship. You know, I know people by first name there, and it's really easy. I mean, the other day we had a couple weeks ago, we had a Harry Potter event, and your gang came so decked out. It was so much fun. They were dressed and they did the whole thing. So that's a great, I mean, I just have peace of mind knowing I know these people. I know they're just going to do a great job. I don't have to worry. They helped with the garden. I don't know about the library's garden. GiveGab was a huge part of making that happen with their volunteer group that came out and planted. So that's one. And we have another relationship that is with this, another high-tech company in town that's they were looking to create relationships and community service, just like CFCU is doing. Similar, they wanted to do something like that. They reached out to us. They were the ones who reached out to us. And now they've provided a scratch camp for teens, a whole program, a day-long program. I'm learning Articulate so that we can build training programs online so that they can have it for their staff to learn what they're doing, that I can use it for everybody that's going to be trained in this particular function. In return, we house their leadership development books in our library and their e-books, and everybody in their company, both here and nationwide, has a library card. So there's a really good sort of balance. They get something from us, we get something from them. So if you're in that kind of position to develop relationships with for-profits, I don't know how that would work for each of your organizations. We benefit a lot. They're really helping with our programming, like I said, and education for kids. They're creating a course on how to build apps for adults. So that will be something we're going to pilot with our staff and send out. The other, as far as recruitment, places for teens. Most of these happen, I already mentioned a few that happen throughout the year, the civics classes, the Honor Society. During the summer, GIAC, YES, and JYC, the Youth Employment Program, they pay kids to go volunteer. In return, though, there is some work on your part. So this is where you may not have the time, but my whole life right now is about volunteers. If you love to coach and develop young people, it's a great opportunity to do that. You work in tandem with the organization. You help kids learn workplace skills. It's a little bit labor intense, but I learned last year things I won't do again this year. I learned a few things like cell phone usage and how to dress appropriately are the big issues. But it's a great opportunity to. I got some wonderful high school kids as well who just flourished in this program, and they're committed because they're getting paid. So that's, if you're worried about showing up, that's part of what they're learning, and if they don't show up, they don't get paid, so they're motivated on that level. Other recruitment opportunities and sites, I mentioned GiveGab, United Wage, the Human Services Coalition, Listserv, email, I don't know if you know about that, you can send out blasts on it. So you just joined the Human Services Coalition Listserv, and you can send out emails that you need volunteers. It's usually it's a pretty large audience, so that's another opportunity. The Jump on Board event that's coming up next week is a great place. It's usually for board members, but why not recruit board members or volunteers? You can let them know other things they could do if they can't be on the board. And then there's a job fair at Ithaca College. We don't offer jobs. We offer unpaid internships and volunteer services. We still go. I still get volunteers that show up. They come out of that experience. That's in the fall and spring. There is a charge, but as a nonprofit, it's I think about $50 to go to it. It's better attended in the fall than in the spring, just so you know. Boards in the fall, not so many kids show up in the spring because they're looking in the fall. Or is it the other way around? I'm just trying to remember if there's the other way around. No, it's in the fall because they're looking for jobs. Yeah. Do I still have time? So just checking.
We have about 5 minutes left before we switch over.
Oh, to switch over to another group or for our?
Yeah, I'm fine with as long, I think these tactics are great, but if people want to ask questions, whatever.
5 minutes for questions for Q&A? Okay. I'm going to stop in case, so make sure you have questions. So, well, let me just say this real quickly. We did an engagement survey, and this is really just validating already what Charlie said. And in the engagement survey, we asked some questions on how happy they were. And from that, as volunteers, and from that information, I found out that where they needed, what they really wanted was to feel connected to the organization, but to feel connected to the people, so the social aspect, to know the staff better. And they also didn't feel they loved what the library stood for, but they didn't quite connect anything meaningful with what they did, because they were doing the grunt work. Most of our volunteers do a lot of grunt work, and they didn't connect that with really helping the library. So my job is to somehow communicate better the impact of their work, and then also to create more social situations where they can interact more with the staff and feel more part of the staff and the organization. So that I'll leave it there. Questions? Did I not address any of the challenges that were mentioned? Did you mention a challenge that wasn't addressed?
I guess one of the things with the program that I run, it happens in October. I always have a hard time recruiting over the summer for the students. And then when the event happens, it's often right at the beginning of when they are starting their busiest time. So then we have a bunch drop off. So it's kind of trying to make connections over the summer, I guess, with students. Is that?
I don't try that, but my relationship with Don Austin is a help. Because Don will keep his eye out for you. And that's one thing I've noticed. And you need to be training these folks? Is that part of the?
A little bit beforehand, but not over the summer necessarily. Just recruiting them and then having them ready to start when school starts. Rather than starting to recruit when school starts, that's too late.
Yeah. Well, schools, you're talking about high school or college?
College.
Well, they're here by August.
Yeah, even then.
That's true, because they're getting to.
Well, we need to have them ready, because if you start recruiting in August, then it runs into mid-September.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Yeah, I've tried the clubs, but they don't really stay active in the summer.
No. That's part of the challenge, is the timing of things. And the only thing I can think of is there any way to move your event later. But I don't know if that's even feasible. Yeah, I don't have an answer to that one.
I think your idea, your point about recognizing volunteers and making sure that they understand sort of the organization and the big picture is really important. And it's something I know, we do a little bit about, probably could do more. But that idea that it's so easy, especially for people who are doing events, to sort of, we need volunteers, we slot them into these jobs, and they're going to do them, and that's great, and then we move on to every other things, and sort of forget that they need to be thanked, but beyond that, they also need to have some validation about what they're doing makes a difference.
Right.
Because they, I mean, I think that's part of their rationale for, it's part of the rationale for anybody doing that.
What
Some
impact
people
do
may
I-
do it because they have to,
Get those students.
or because there's some requirement that says you have to. But even still, they're making a choice to do something with you or with us, and you know, the more they can understand how that fits into the bigger picture, and why picking up trash is all of a sudden a really important thing.
Right.
It's not just you know, it's not a chore to be done, but it really is part of a, if you do it right, it's part of the big picture. It makes for something more exciting.
And that's really a good point, the trash thing. This is, I'm from New Orleans, and the Mardi Gras is measured, its success is measured by the tonnage of trash that's picked up the night after. Seriously. So, you know, you could start saying, we picked up these many pounds of trash. Your event, you know, the Apple Festival was so successful, we had this much trash. I don't know. I know we're just moving out of that kind of thing, but to the zero, whatever it is.
Zero waste.
But, you know, how do you spin something like, so I'm introducing new awards this year. We usually just awarded volunteers who gave 100 hours or more. But now the volunteers who did the most different things, the volunteer who read to the most children in our reader program. I think those are the two ones, and then a community partner award, because there are organizations out there that are just doing amazing things for us, and we want to recognize them. So I think, you know, trying to figure out how to reward what they're doing is another way of attracting or at least recognizing and making them feel good about what you're doing.
Well, if I could add one thing, I would always say, I think one of the best ways, I mean, the best way to look at recruitment is to look at it as retention. And the reason I say that is if you're, you know, these are essentially employees. They're not paid with money. They're paid with the things that I was talking about before. They're paid with satisfying those needs, but it's non-monetary compensation essentially. And so if you have a business's best way of getting new employees is just to retain the ones they have. It's the cheapest thing they can do. So if you look at it in those terms, if you spend your time treating them great, even if sometimes, like Jonathan has, you know, a lot of college students, maybe they're not around next year, but the college students are going to talk. And when they go back, they're going to say which was the most fun or most satisfying place that they volunteered, and it still helps you. So if you spend a lot of time trying to recruit those volunteers, even if you don't recruit them specifically, they will turn into other volunteers. So it's just a way of looking at it that you really, I think is really helpful.
And speaking of college kids and timing, I'm hoping some of those groups I mentioned to you might help in getting volunteers when you need them. But one thing to build on what you're saying is I recently had a service fraternity come in. They really did some great work. I took a picture of them, and within 5 minutes it was posted on the library Facebook page and the volunteer Facebook page. Thanks to this group for showing up. You know, that they had it next thing I know it was on their website. So, you know, this is a good way of getting your name out there. It's a great place to go volunteer, especially when you're dealing with groups that like to do a Facebook, that whole social media aspect of it. You all do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, part of the reason we volunteer for the library a lot is because some employees volunteered there and they had a great time and they came back and told everyone. I mean, the Harry Potter thing, they showed everyone those pictures, and they were actually still dressed like that when they came back to the office. And I think it just makes more people want to go there the next time, you know, so.
For the fun part.
Yeah, I mean, that's recruitment that you're not even doing work for, it's just happening. So it's, anytime you can tap into that, it's a really helpful thing.
Any others?
Yeah. Any other questions before we end this and switch into our last one?
I hope that helped. If you want to contact me, I'm yrubio@tcpl.org. For, you know, if you missed something or have a question, if I can help, I will. If I can, you know, I'll say. I don't know what to say. I don't know that one.
Could you get that one more time?
Rubio, Y-R-U-B as in boy, I-O, @tcpl.org.
All right, leave a bunch of business cards here too, if you guys want to get a hold of me, obviously some business cards or other materials.
Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it. And, yep. We'll get the other session ready. We'll be ready in just a couple minutes.